Hey everybody! So I'd like to talk to you today about the AMS and Cwsa cell phone policy. Now, we've had the same cell phone policy in place for the last 6 years. That policy is in grades 4 through 5. Your cell phone is in your locker by the beginning bell and you can't take it out again until the end bell. In grades 6 through 8, you're allowed to have your cell phone on you as long as you have a star card and only in classes with teacher permission. Now, that policy has served us pretty well over the first few of those years. We've been having some struggles in the last couple, and as we've been having those struggles, we've been going a little bit and doing some research. So right now I'm going to talk to you about what our new policy is going to be starting next year and the reasons for that, and some things we'd like to hear from you. All right, let's get to the first big question. What is the cell phone policy going to be? Next year, starting from the first day of school on, we're going to have the same cell phone policy throughout the entire building. Your cell phones will need to be in your lockers from the beginning bell all the way to the end of the day at the end bell. If you need to contact anybody during the day, we can do that using phones in the office, in your classrooms. You have email that's capability because everyone now has a Chromebook. However, the cell phone themselves will need to be in their locker from the beginning bell to the end bell. Now, the next big question is why the change? And there are three major ones for this. Number one, due to the bullying and harassment and basically toxic environment we're seeing on online social media that's happening in our school. Number two, the disruption we're seeing in our classrooms. And number three, this is how most middle schools nationwide are dealing with it nowadays in response to those first two issues. So let's dive into each one of those separately. So on that first issue of social media, I'm going to remind you of a video I showed you earlier this year. Here we go. So just like the dogs in that video, for some reason, when we get online, people tend to go at each other a lot more ruthlessly and just really attacking more than they do face to face. And this is a big problem. We've seen a lot of this conflict really happening. Maybe it starts online and then it rolls into school and causes massive problems here. That's really been a big uptick on that the last couple of years. Our biggest situations of conflict usually have a social media aspect in there. Not all of them, but easily more than 75–80%. Now the thing is, even social media companies themselves know that you have to have a certain level of maturity to deal with all the stuff going down online. So if you sign up for anything, Insta, Snap, TikTok, you're supposed to be 13 in order to have an account. Most of you have accounts, skip that part altogether. But the deal is, it takes a certain level of maturity to have impulse management, not just to go ahead and get all caught up in something that's going on. So, part of the reason for this policy, a major one, is to be able to help bring those things a bit more back in control. The thing is, we're not going to stop all of that from happening because a lot of it takes place out of school. But we don't have to give it a runway to have it keep happening here and at least slow that down. A second big reason for this is that cell phones are currently causing a fair amount of disruption of learning in the classroom right now. Our current policy is that students are only supposed to have cell phones out if teachers explicitly gives permission first. Let's be clear, that's not really happening in a lot of cases. I walked into a class last week and a student has cell phone propped up inside of the book while they're reading. You know this happens all the time. Especially with wireless earbuds, people are listening to things all the time while stuff is going on. Over and over again, people are seeing more disruptions than they're seeing benefits from having cell phones in the classroom, as I'm talking to teachers. And as I've talked with other schools that have made the change of going to the cell phone policy that we are, they've seen improvement in that area as well. Which brings us to our third big reason for the change, is that this policy, bell to bell, cell phones and lockers, is what most middle schools nationwide have in place. Rapids has this policy. Port has this policy. Most every middle school principal I've talked to has this policy. I'm on various work groups with educators of principals in middle schools nationwide, and almost every single one has exactly this policy. It didn't always used to be that. When we put our cell phone policy in place 6 years ago, that's what it roughly was. However, in response to the uptick of problems on social media and also classroom disruption for everybody, this is the direction the policies are going, and we're going to follow suit. Now, we know that a big reason that some parents want their students to have cell phones is so they can stay in touch throughout the day. Let's say you need to change where you're getting picked up or being dropped off, or that you forgot something and you're in the habit of texting your parents so they can bring it to the office. Those type of things can still take place. In addition to being able to, the pickup stuff usually can be handled from the locker at the end of the day. However, if you need to make a call during the day, you can always call from one of our classroom phones. Now, we do recognize that some phone calls need to have privacy, more so than you'll get in the classroom. For that reason, we are now bringing back a student phone in the office that we've had out for the past couple of years due to COVID. Because several of you will need to contact parents more frequently now without cell phones, we're going to have a student phone in the office again. For those who need very private conversations, talk with the office, and we can arrange for you to have a conversation in one of the back rooms here in the office that you'll be able to be okay. So in summary, we're changing our cell phone policy that we've had for the last 6 years because the world's a lot different place than it was 6 years ago. We're seeing so much more conflict online that is causing disruptions and feelings of safety. We're seeing so many more disruptions in the classroom that are causing problems, that we're following best practice that's happening among schools all throughout the U.S. All right, now it's your turn. In your classes right now, please talk about the following topics. Number 1, please summarize what the changes are going to be to next year's cell phone policy and summarize the main reasons why we're making these changes. Number 2, please talk about what you think about it. Go ahead and share that with each other, share that with your advisor. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you have any questions for me, feel free to stop, send me an email, whatever it is, I'd love to discuss it with you. And as always, if your parents have specific concerns, please direct them to me. Love to talk with them as well, and we're reaching out to them to do just that. All right, have a great day.